Welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here, and today we'll be discussing a news related to India's sugar production, especially about India's sugar surplus production and how it is leading to a crisis. What kind of crisis is this? These are subheadings. How are sugarcane farmers impacted by the excess sugar production? This is our first perspective. What measures can be taken to prevent India's agricultural sector from collapsing due to the sugar surplus? How have excessive sugarcane subsidies affected India's competitiveness in the global sugar market? And what are the implications of sugarcane overcultivation? So these things we'll be discussing in this lecture. Let us move forward. And the first thing that we need to know is what is sugar? Because in this lecture we'll be talking about sugar. Now, sugar is something we use in everyday life to make things sweet. But we must know its chemical composition and structure also. So, sugar is a sweet tasting soluble carbohydrate. Alright. That is found naturally in various plants, including sugarcane and sugar beets. It can also be artificially produced. One example is aspartame. One kind of another sugar, sativia, is also being used in some healthy products. So it is common ingredient used in cooking and baking to sweeten foods and beverages. There are various types of sugar, including granulated white sugar, brown sugar, powdered sugar, also known as confectioner sugar, and more. In India, sugar is primarily produced from sugarcane, a tall perennial grass. See, sugarcane is very important for prelims. There are few crops that I had already told you: rice, cotton, wheat, sugarcane, coffee, tea. So these crops have been repeatedly asked in prelims. So in India, sugar is primarily produced from sugarcane. It's a grass, not a plant. Please remember this fact. A tree. The category is grass. All right, it's a plant, but the category is grass. That is cultivated for its sugar-rich stalks. Stalks means the stem type stalk. When it's a grass, it's known as stalk. You must have all seen sugarcane. It looks like bamboo. Bamboo is also a grass. Okay, so what are the steps of production of sugar? These are also important. So cultivation of sugarcane. It's grown in agricultural fields across various regions of India and requires a tropical or subtropical climate. This, please remember, tropical or subtropical climate. With the adequate rainfall and fertile soil, then the harvesting is done. Once the sugarcane plants reach maturity, they are harvested. This involves cutting the stalk close to the ground. The harvested sugarcane is then transported to sugar mills for processing. Extraction. At the sugar mill, the sugarcane is crushed and the juice is extracted from the stalks, like normally how we drink the sugarcane juice. Alright, the juice contains a mixture of water, sugars, and other compounds. Then the clarification takes place. So extracted juice is then treated to remove impurities and non-sugar components. This process typically involves heating the juice and adding some chemicals to coagulate and remove solids. This results in a clearer juice because we want the final produce, that is sugar, to be clear. We need white sugar. Alright. Then the crystallization takes place. The concentrate syrup is then further processed to promote the crystallization of sucrose. So what kind of sugar will you find in sugarcane? It is sucrose or invert sugar. Alright, so when you read about sugar in chemistry, you find various types of sugar such as glucose, fructose, fruit sugar, lactose, galactose, mannose, sucrose. Alright, so this is sucrose is invert sugar. Alright, so separation. The sugar crystals are separated from the remaining liquid known as molasses through centrifugation. Centrifugation is what? When something is like this and a force is applied on rotation along its radius. Then the centrifugation takes place and the heavier compounds or heavier elements will come this side. The lighter compounds or lighter elements will stay in the center because of more force acting on these heavier compounds. Dyeing and packaging. The separated sugar crystals are dried and then packaged for distribution and sale. So this is basic information of what is sugar, where it comes from, where it comes from, and how it is processed. Alright, please remember some basic facts such as sugar cane is grass. It requires tropical or subtropical environment, and the sugar that we obtain is sucrose. Alright, let's move forward now to see what is the news. So in 2021 and 22, India surpassed Brazil to become the largest sugar producer in the world. So Brazil naturally becomes second and India becomes first, producing 359 lakh tons, an all-time high. But this isn't sweet news. With the resources that go into making all the sugar dwindling at an alarming rate, India's sugar market might slip into its biggest crisis ever in the coming decades. So why? Let us see. Because it tells the reason also here. Just a second, I'll highlight it. Let me see where is highlighter. Okay. So with the resources that go into making all the sugar dwindling at an alarming rate, that means there are some resources. There is some resource that is being. Okay, I see I cannot use it. Just a second. All right. Okay, let us do it again. So resources that go into making the sugar, all that sugar, are dwindling at an alarming rate. So let us see what resources do we take to make sugar. So except for the production, we saw that it requires water, temperature, correct temperature, and soil. So what can be the resources that is going to dwindling? That is water. So a lot of water is consumed in making sugar. All right. So for farmers across most of India, sugarcane is one of the most profitable cash crops. So here is a question whether MSP is offered on sugarcane or not, and whether it is a rabi crop or a kharif crop. Reflected in country's sugar surplus and high sugar exports, the impact of this on the country's groundwater is, however, disastrous, and it has also been overlooked. If we do not address the chronic overuse of groundwater in the sugar industry soon and effectively, India's sugarcane sector will be at risk of collapse. So what is the resources here that is being overused and exploited? That is the groundwater. Alright, so we must take care of the groundwater here. Let us see, why is there excess sugar production? What is the reason for this? So India is the world's largest consumer of sugar. So producer also and consumer also, the first. And thus has to produce enough to meet its huge domestic demand. But the excess production stems from policies and measures that have make farmers favor sugarcane cultivation. So what policies and measures has the government taken that has given such a profit to farmers, such a benefit to farmers that they love to cultivate the sugarcane? The central government offers a fair and remunerative price FRP scheme. Please remember, this is not MSP scheme. It is FRP. We'll also see why the MSP is not offered on sugarcane. But please remember this, which mandates a minimum price that sugar mills have to pay to sugarcane farmers, ensuring that the farmers always get fair profits for their crop. State governments also offer heavy subsidies to incentivize sugarcane cultivation. Some have argued that this is done to win farmers' votes in politically important rural areas. The resulting sugar surplus has led to higher exports, naturally, with a record 110 lakh tons exported in 2021-22. In fact, Brazil, Australia, and Guatemala filed a complaint in the WTO. So this was a news in year 2021-22 that India has a WTO proceedings against itself in case of sugar subsidies. So for violating international trade rules by offering excessive export subsidies and domestic support to farmers to outcompete other countries in the global sugar market. The organization ruled against India, and India also lost its appeal. Now let us see what efforts have been made to address this issue. So we have clarified two things, that this is the issue, yes, and what is the reason for the issue. Now we see the way forward. So to deal with the sugar surplus, the Indian government considered diverting it to the production of ethanol. So what is ethanol now? Ethanol means two carbon compound with an alcohol group attached to it. That is ethanol. Ethanol is used in the petrol mixing. It is mixed in petrol, and it is also used in the alcohol production. an organic compound made by fermenting sugarcane molasses or sugar. Ethanol is the active ingredient in alcoholic beverages, that means wine, rum, whiskey, brandy, or other things, and is also used in the chemicals and cosmetic industries. Plus, it is mixed in petrol. In the transport sector, the use of ethanol blending petrol significantly reduces harmful emissions, such as carbon monoxide and various hydrocarbons. You must have heard about the E10 petrol, E20 petrol. So this E represents the ethanol. The government launched the EBP program in 2003 to reduce crude oil imports and curtail greenhouse gas emissions from petrol-based vehicles. It has been fairly successful. It started with the modest goal of achieving a blending rate of 5%, but the target set for 2025 is 20%. So we'll be using E20 petrol by 2025. So please remember this. Let us now move forward. The government has also reduced the GST on ethanol from 18% to 5% in 2021. In the same year, of the 394 lakh tons of total sugar produced, about 350 lakh tons was diverted to produce ethanol, while India achieving a blending rate of 10% months ahead of the target. Because we have excess ethanol, sugarcane is not included in MSP because it is not a traded commodity. Instead, it is primarily sold to sugar mills, which are required by law to pay farmers a certain price for their crop, and this price is determined by the government. So let us make a mind map till here. We considered what is sugar, first of all. We saw where it comes from, that is what is the source. We also saw what are the conditions required for the production. We'll be seeing which states are the primary producer of sugars, such as Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. We saw what is the resources, what are the resources that we need, and which of these resources is becoming a dwindling problem, which is the water or groundwater. We also saw what is the FRP scheme by the government towards the farmers and why do they love to produce so much of sugarcane. We also saw about the global perspective, that is WTO perspective, and what has been the result. We also saw the way forward by the government for diverting the sugar towards the ethanol production. And we also have an aim of achieving 20% blending by 2025. All right. So let's move forward. So how does excessive sugarcane cultivation impact groundwater? So this is our main concern for the lecture, that what happens when we use or grow excessive sugarcane. So while the EBP program has helped India significantly reduce its crude oil imports and sugar exports and overall greenhouse gas emissions, sugarcane overcultivation has exacted a steep natural cost. Sugarcane is a highly resource intensive cash crop. It needs a large swath of land and guzzles groundwater. There is an abundant research as well as public discourse on sugarcane's land needs, with experts recommending that installing solar panels would be better use of land than sugarcane cultivation to reduce net emissions. But relatively little attention has been paid to the crop's inordinate consumption of water. India's top sugarcane growing states are Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. Please remember this, Maharashtra is highest growing, followed by Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. The first three account for 85 to 90% production of the sugar produced in the country. If sugarcane were a purely rain-fed crop, it will need around 3000 mm of rainfall a year to be irrigated. Now compare this with the rain fall of India. Tell me in the comment section. But these three states receive around 1200 mm a year. The remaining water requirement is met by groundwater as well as irrigation. Irrigation essentially increases the groundwater up to a certain limit. So most of the groundwater resides in confined aquifers, which means the water is trapped between two impermeable layers of rock, such as this. Alright, so it can only be extracted by drilling a bore well through the upper layer. Such groundwater cannot be recharged by rainfall so it is a limited resource. Normally, 100 kg of sugar is produced from 1 ton of sugarcane, which consumes around 2 lakh liter of groundwater for irrigation alone. Add to this the water for industrial sugar manufacturing and refining. In other words, the 110 lakh tons of sugar that India exported include 26 lakh crore liters of groundwater. Now think about this figure and see how dreadful it is. This is a worry. The top sugarcane growing states are already drought prone, as well as groundwater stressed. In a 2022 report, the Central Groundwater Board noted that a third of all its groundwater assessment units in Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Karnataka were semi-critical, critical, or overexploited. Please also see these categories for groundwater and note down when they are allotted. Let us now see the way forward for this. So while the environmental implications of excess sugar production should be clear, surplus production and export have enormous financial gain, amounting to lakhs of crores of rupees a year. So simply cutting sugar production isn't a viable solution. A better and more sustainable way would be to assess and then correct incentives that skew in favor of sugarcane over other crops. That means basically diversifying the crop production. And this is the most viable solution when it comes to the agricultural problem of India. That means whenever a crop is depleting any natural resource, just replace it with another crop, make it less favorable and make others more favorable. It is after all the policies that end in, let's say, increasing the production of any crop. Alright. So introducing fair and comprehensive subsidy schemes for a variety of crops can help farmer diversify as well as distribute cultivation evenly. So this is the end result, end goal. Prevent monocultures, that means culturing of a single crop such as sugarcane, and ensure an equitable income, that means income coming from various different resources. Availability of a wider range of profitable and less resource intensive crops can lower the strain on vital natural resources. Moving further, this must be complemented by the environmentally responsible sugarcane cultivation practices that prioritize groundwater, such as drip irrigation, to tackle the issue in the long run. So in drip irrigation, water is allowed to drip slowly but directly to the roots of sugarcane plants, reducing water consumption by up to 70% relative to the current flood irrigation method. Alright, so drip irrigation is a better process. So this can result in saving of the groundwater as well as diversification. So these are the way forward. Drip irrigation has already been made mandatory in many parts of India, including in the 3 states. And the government has also offered subsidies for farmers to setting up the system. 3 states which are Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Karnataka. Okay, so next, India needs to invest in overall water saving and management systems. Concerted efforts to adopt cleaner practices such as rainwater harvesting, wastewater treatment and canal irrigation networks will help minimize stress on groundwater reservoirs as other water resources become available for irrigation. Although the CGWB, that is Central Groundwater Board, conducts significant research and generate valuable data, many aspects of groundwater availability and distribution remain poorly understood and or mapped. So this is also very important, groundwater mapping. So you must have heard about National Water Body Census. That was recently new, so you can attach this topic to that one. So investment in groundwater research therefore needs to be considered seriously. As India continues to become more of a global frontrunner in the agricultural sector, it must be put sustainably at the center. So let us sum up the lecture. What we saw in this lecture is that sugarcane production, there are some benefits to it. First of all, India became first. It is first in both production as well as consumption. Second thing is, there are some laws. And the first 3 states in this are Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Karnataka. Okay, so what are the losses? Groundwater depletion. All right. And what are the repercussions? We have a global appeal against us in the WTO. What are the solutions to this? One is diversification of crops. Second is changing policies. And third thing is drip irrigation. Fourth thing is groundwater mapping and research. So in this very short, you can sum up the lecture and make your notes as well in the same way when you come across a topic. You can write the statistics along with these short maps in a table, let's say like this, that this and this are statistics and data attached for this topic, and this will help you a lot in your mains preparation. So this was today's lecture. I'll see you in the next lecture very soon. This is Yatharth here signing off. Thank you very much and have a good day. Keep studying and keep growing.